My name is Paul Tilstone from Festive Road, the consultancy on a mission to create better travel and meetings management. Today, I'm in conversation with Matteo Renzi from Gett. Matteo, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Always love Italians, the force of nature, the passion. First Italian on the booth, so thank you for joining us. Now, before we get into the conversation, Gett, tell us a little bit, or tell the audience about who is Gett, what do you do, just so for context.
Sure. Gett is a global ground transportation management company. We started in Israel as a taxi company back in 2011, and then expanded in the UK, Russia later on. We now specialized in corporate transport, so we connect fleets all over the world to corporate travelers with our unique technology and platform. The beauty of our solution is that combines all the different type of ground transportation services into one. We have taxis, we have chauffeurs, we have limos, we have ride hailing all over the globe. Benefit for the customer is that they have everything in one place, safe environment, they save money. Benefit for our partner fleets is that they get additional work that otherwise they wouldn't have access to. So it's really a win-win marketplace.
Yeah, and it feels like this whole kind of integrated platform has been a long time coming. So we're glad you're on the scene. I'm going to ask you about sort of 2022 and beyond, and the travel managers' focus and where that should be. I suspect I know what the answer is going to be, but why don't you tell me what you're going to suggest they should be focusing on?
Yeah, I think the last year and a half has taught us many things.
Yes.
One of them is really taking care of people, and it's a very, very common trend for our corporate customers. One of them, to be honest, is safety.
Yeah.
I think in the last few months, few quarters, we realized how fragile we are as a mankind, as an ecosystem, as a fabric society. So, and ground transportation is clearly, safety in ground transportation is a key element.
Yes.
So we see several trends happening in the industry. Yes, people are traveling less to the offices or to meetings, but when they travel to the office or to meetings, they tend to prefer a safer option, which often is a car, traditionally not shared anymore in these days.
Okay.
And interesting enough, with all the different disruptions that are happening, for weather or other issues all over the world, there is a new wave of, it's becoming more and more important to be sure that, you really care where your people are,
yes,
in which vehicle they are, to be sure that the driver is a safe driver and all of that. So it's almost, a new way of doing corporate travel, very much focused on that. And then of course, sustainability, very obvious word. We can talk for very long hours on that.
Well-being and sustainability have tended to be the two big topics that have been driving these conversations. I think in particular on the ground transportation front, there's a couple of interesting things. We've all, I am sure, as travelers ourselves, been in ground transport options which don't quite feel like they're a bit risky, wherever you are in the world. I guess maybe one thing that Gett can do is look at those places where there is a much more dispersed ground transportation landscape and bring some safety and standards to that environment, which is really important. The second thing I think is really interesting from a ground transportation point of view is it's almost like aviation used to be the center of travel programs, but I feel like actually ground transportation's moving up the agenda for people. Do you sense that?
Yeah, so let me answer to your first question, or first point. Yes, I think there is a lot of value in aggregating.
Yes.
Fleets, drivers, or sources of supply, or partners, as we call them. And corporate travelers have very different needs. And corporates have very different needs. Sometimes they need and want to go for the cheapest available option.
Yeah.
In other instances, they need a more high-end type of service.
And it changes, right?
Changes
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
It changes by company, by traveler,
circumstance,
by time of the day,
yep,
type of meeting. The variety is immense. And that's the problem that we solve. We put all that complexity away because we funnel all of that fragmentation into one single place where basically customers have choice. And when you have choice, I mean, you have better chances to make the right choice.
And data off the back of it.
And all the data behind it.
Yeah.
On the second point, what's the role of ground transportation? You're right. I think we also see the first and last mile, sometimes of a journey, becoming more and more important. Sometimes I say ground transportation can be almost a parenthesis of a full journey.
Yes.
And this puts a lot of pressure on us because you need to be right from the very beginning and you need to deliver a great experience at the end. So it's definitely more and more important. And our cities are more and more disrupted. Traffic, new regulation, a general scarcity of solutions in some areas. So it's becoming increasingly more difficult to deliver that first and last mile.
Yes.
And if that first or last mile doesn't go well,
makes or breaks the journey.
Or breaks the journey.
I have been there many times when either the car doesn't show up in time or I get out of the airport and it's not there and I'm tired and I want to get home to the family. I 100% agree with you.
And in a situation like we have today in ground transportation with a lot of fragmentation, as you said, there is one magic word, which is resilience.
Yes.
We need to create a system which is resilient.
Yes.
And that's what we do.
Okay. It's essentially removing the friction from this whole space. And if we think about removing friction, I think the rise of API platforms, digital platforms, has been an emerging theme pre-pandemic, but it's accelerated. How's the integration with the existing supply chain, with the TMC community, with aggregators? Is that something that you found there's been a big demand for what you do and the digital platform?
There is big demand.
Okay.
And the nice thing is that technology is scaling up very, very quickly across the full stack of the value chain.
Yeah.
Drivers have better technology in their hands. Fleets have better technologies. We have better technology. Aggregators have better technology.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this means far better user experience for the customer, even more choice, and efficiency across the whole value chain, which ultimately is very good for the customer.
Yeah. And is your sense that buyers generally have a handle on this part of their business, or actually there's a huge opportunity for buyers to grab hold of this and do something and bring immediate value to their businesses?
That's a fantastic question. And you might be surprised, but even largest corporates, they often have a so-called unmanaged spend in excess of 50%.
Right, wow, okay.
Why? Because today it's very easy to book a taxi and then expense it back. And this has generated an additional level of fragmentation also on the demand side.
Yes.
And I think there is a big opportunity here, not only from a cost standpoint, because clearly if you consolidate everything in one place, you have visibility you can control. But going back to the point we said before, also safety. If you have someone riding in India, taking a first car that he or she finds on the road and expensing it back, well, the issue is not probably really the expense, right? The issue might be more, the
potential risk to an asset, to a business in terms of human resource.
Not necessarily from a safety standpoint, but also from an actual delivery standpoint.
Yes.
So there is big value in bringing that. And it's amazing how companies kind of have a very strong grip on flights, hotels, room bookings, and all that part of the travel and management, and very little on ground transportation.
I think it may have been in the kind of too difficult box and also what's the return, but with ground transportation rising up the agenda, with solutions in place, and it's not just Gett, there's a variety of, this whole space is really developed. I think it's maybe the time for the buyer to take a really good look at their ground transportation and do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we find ourselves in uncomfortable conversation with the travel manager that says, this is what I'm spending. And then, we have to go back to him or her in a few weeks and say, I'm sorry, but you're actually spending 3-4 more times of what you think. But the good news is that we can help.
Yes, and now you know, so we can do something with it.
So that alone, I think, is a massive plus for any corporate. At least embrace the fact that there is an opportunity there.
Brilliant. Matteo, thank you so much for sharing the insights on the rise, ground transportation importance, the digital platform, API platform. Thank you for joining us on the recording studio.
Thank you for having me.